Life sometimes throws situations at you where it feels like fate itself is against you, trapping you in a corner of despair and hopelessness. The heroine of this story, let's call her Elena, found herself in just such a position. 37 years old, 5 years of marriage to a man named Tom, whom she's known practically her whole life, and 2 teenagers, a 15-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter. On the surface, everything seems normal, but behind the facade of a happy family lies a tangled web of problems that Elena doesn't know how to unravel. What led her to such a desperate step, seeking advice and support on the internet? What secrets lie hidden in her past, and how have they affected her present? To find out, you need to hear her story to the end, because the key to understanding the depth of her peregrini and finding a way out of the situation lies in the details. The paths of the narrator and Tom intertwined in their youth as they grew up side by side, attending the same schools. Close ties between their families predetermined their frequent communication. Romantic feelings began to blossom during their college years, but after graduation, fate led them down different paths. Several years later, their paths crossed again, which they took as a sign from above. Their relationship developed quickly, and soon they married, becoming parents to 2 beautiful children, Ben and Mia. Tom turned out to be not only a loving, but also an incredibly devoted husband and father. His support, love, and patience were unwavering, even when the narrator felt she didn't deserve it. The children adored their father, especially Mia, who was always daddy's girl, sharing a special bond with him that caused a slight jealousy in her mother. Despite all the ups and downs, the narrator considered their family happy until the shadows of the past caught up with her in the most tragic way. This concerns events that occurred several years ago, shortly after the birth of their son, when the family was going through a difficult period. Tom, having lost his father, was forced to take over the management of the company, which required enormous dedication and time. Feeling lonely and abandoned, the narrator found comfort in communicating with Vince, Tom's best friend. Due to her husband's preoccupation, she began to spend more and more time with Vince. Postpartum depression and the need for a confidant brought them closer, but their relationship crossed the line. Under the cover of night, a fleeting intimacy occurred between them, which, by a fatal mistake, was recklessly repeated several times. They agreed to remain silent before Tom, as Vince feared losing both his friendship and his professional position in Tom's company. The heroine also did not want to jeopardize her marriage. However, months later, fate presented her with unexpected news. She was pregnant. Panic gripped her because there was a possibility that Vince could be the father, but she desperately rejected the thought. She attributed paternity to Tom, who happily accepted the news of the upcoming addition to the family. This period of life was overshadowed by inner turmoil. The feeling of guilt relentlessly haunted her, but she found solace in the thought that as long as the truth was not revealed, everything would be fine. She tried to suppress these memories, focusing on her role as a devoted wife and caring mother. Tom was overjoyed when their daughter, Mia, was born, bringing unspeakable joy to their home. Watching his tender care for his daughter, the heroine felt even more remorse, but she continued to keep her secret, hoping that it would never become apparent. She managed to hide the truth for so long because, by happy coincidence, Mia inherited her features. The girl did not look like Tom, but thanks to her resemblance to her mother, no one suspected the secret. Friends and relatives often joked that their son, Ben, was the spitting image of his father, and Mia was her mother's. This joke became an integral part of family gatherings, and every time it was mentioned, the heroine forced herself to laugh along with everyone else, hiding the storm of emotions raging in her soul. Mia's birth was a moment of deep relief for her, as the newborn girl's features seemed to reflect her own. It seemed that fate itself had given her a chance to keep her long-held secret. The mother's joy only grew stronger over the years, watching her daughter grow up, inheriting her traits. Tom, never doubting his paternity, was overjoyed, admiring his daughter. He often repeated how lucky he was with his children, each of whom was a perfect combination of him and his wife. However, the feeling of guilt did not leave her, lurking deep inside. She convinced herself that the fleeting affair was just a mistake, a momentary weakness that did not define her or her marriage. She and Vince never returned to what had happened, maintaining a cautious distance to avoid suspicion. Life went on, and she dedicated herself to being the best wife and mother she could be, hoping her love and devotion could atone for her momentary lapse. Over the years, the secret became a part of her daily life, like a shadow that followed her but never truly manifested. Her heart ached as she watched Tom play with Mia, teach her how to ride a bike, and help her with her homework. He was a wonderful father, and Mia adored him. The girl always ran to him for comfort or to share joyful news. So when the truth came out, she was surprised that Mia turned to her first. So how did Mia stumble upon this earth-shattering truth? It all started with a seemingly innocent curiosity. Mia became fascinated with the idea of taking a genetic test to shed light on their family's ethnic origins. She was driven by a desire to discover if there were any other cultural roots hidden in their lineage beyond their European heritage. She dreamed of connecting with the history and legacy of their ancestors. At first, the narrator didn't take the idea seriously. It seemed like it could be a fun and educational adventure, one that didn't pose any potential threats. Looking back, however, she realizes she should have foreseen the possible consequences. But at the time, she didn't exercise the necessary caution. It all began when Ben first decided to take a DNA test. He was thrilled with the idea and happily shared his results with the entire family, further fueling Mia's interest. She found it tempting to discover what surprises might be hidden in her past. The narrator should have been more careful, but she couldn't imagine that these tests could reveal her most carefully guarded and darkest secret. When Mia received her test results, she fortunately turned to her mother first, not her father. She was confused because her genetic profile didn't match Ben's at all. This seemed completely illogical to her since they were supposed to be siblings. She expected their genetic makeup to have some similarities, but the differences were so significant that they raised legitimate questions. In that very moment when Mia demanded an explanation, the narrator felt panic grip her mind. Perhaps she should have woven an elaborate web of lies, created a convincing version of events, but instead, succumbing to a moment of weakness, she rashly blurted out the truth. She revealed to Mia the secret she had kept for so many years. Tom was not her biological father. Then, in a few disjointed sentences, she recounted the fleeting affair with a man named Vince and the circumstances of Mia's conception. Guilt and fear overwhelmed her, and in a pleading tone, she made Mia swear that this secret would never leave their lips, especially in Tom's presence. The narrator naively believed she could keep the situation under control if she and Mia became the keepers of this secret. Mia, as expected, was shocked and disoriented. She didn't know how to process the information, and there was clear pain in her eyes. The narrator tried to comfort her daughter, assuring her that Tom loved her with all his heart and that this new information shouldn't change anything in their relationship. She saw Mia desperately trying to cope with the truth that had been thrust upon her and hated herself for putting her in such a difficult position. This feeling of self-hatred haunts her to this day. She should never have revealed the secret. She mistakenly believed that they could keep this secret between them, but she underestimated the destructive power of truth and its impact on Mia. Soon, Mia's behavior became defiant. She withdrew into herself and began to distance herself from Tom. The narrator tried to reassure her, but she could see the immense burden weighing on her shoulders. The secret was too heavy for her to bear. The narrator made considerable efforts to support Mia in this difficult situation, and over time, the girl seemed to come to terms with the truth. At least, that's what it seemed like to the mother. Secretly, Mia even began to ridicule Tom, considering him weak since he wasn't her biological father, and therefore had no right to tell her what to do. The narrator was pained to see how her daughter's attitude was changing toward the man who had loved and raised her as his own, but she hoped their secret would remain hidden. However, that hope was shattered a week ago when Mia hosted a sleepover for her friends. One of the girls was having a hard time dealing with the arrival of her stepfather in her life. Trying to comfort her friend and simultaneously mock Tom, Mia stated that a stepfather is like a dad, only with all the privileges, but without the authority, because he's not a real parent. The girl went on to make fun of Tom, saying that since she found out the truth, she would never listen to him again. Unbeknownst to her, Tom was standing in the hallway and heard every word she said. His face paled as if he'd been struck. Returning to the bedroom, he realized that the daughter he loved and raised was not his own. Tom froze for a moment, then knocked on the door and told Mia he had heard everything. The girl was shocked and tried to brush it off as a joke. At least that's what she later told her mother. Tom didn't say anything, just turned and left, leaving Mia and her friends stunned. Mia was devastated. She didn't want Tom to hear her words and didn't fully realize the impact they would have. In tears, she ran to her mother, begging for help, but her mother was just as lost. Later that evening, she found him in the living room, staring blankly at the wall. The silence between them felt like an unbearable burden. She felt the sharp pain and the mark of betrayal in his eyes, and it was probably at that moment that she realized their old life was over. She tried to explain the situation, to apologize, but Tom couldn't even look at her. He felt deeply betrayed not only by her, but also by Mia. The daughter he loved so much had been mocking him behind his back, questioning his authority, and even the unbreakable bond between them. It was a crushing blow, doubly so. Now, everything seems like madness. She expected Tom to kick them out, but he hasn't yet, which can be seen as a glimmer of hope. Ben is confused and scared. He doesn't understand what's happening and why his family is falling apart before his eyes. And Mia, despite her apparent defiance, is plagued by guilt and deeply saddened. If anyone has faced a similar situation or has wise advice on how to repair the damage, she asks them to share their experience. She desperately needs guidance on how to cope with this chaos and perhaps find a way to rebuild the family. A Reddit user shares sad news, expressing regret for a previous post that she believes brought misfortune to her family. She had previously sought advice from the community, but faced criticism and predictions of an imminent breakup with her husband. As it turned out, these grim forecasts came true. According to the woman, her husband, Tom, did decide to kick her out of the house. After posting the first post, she had hoped to improve their relationship, believing that his immediate reaction wasn't negative. However, Tom, as it turned out, was simply waiting for the results of a DNA test. After receiving confirmation that Ben was not his son, he called a family meeting. Tom decided not to hide the truth from the children, believing that Mia already knew, and Ben had the right to know the truth. He demanded that his wife confess who Mia's father was. After much hesitation, she revealed that the girl's father was his best friend, Vince. At that moment, according to the woman, Tom was as if he had been shot and his eyes showed heartbreaking betrayal. Then Tom instructed his wife to explain everything to Ben. With a trembling voice, she confessed to her son about the infidelity and lies, telling him that Mia was not his biological sister. Ben was shocked, his eyes expressing extreme disbelief. Soon, his shock turned to anger. He shouted accusations of lies and betrayal, then ran out of the room. The woman wanted to follow him, but Tom stopped her, explaining that Ben needed time to process what he had heard. After announcing Tom's fateful decision, the main character of the story found herself at the epicenter of a family drama. Her husband, not hiding his anger, confronted her and young Mia with the fact of immediate eviction, giving them only a few hours to pack. In this tragic scene, there was also a bitter recognition of maintaining stability for their eldest son, Ben, who, according to his father, deserved to stay in a familiar environment. A mother's heart was breaking with pain, but she understood that persuasion was useless because Ben probably wouldn't want to leave his father's house. Desperate pleas to Tom to reconsider his decision crashed against the wall of his inflexibility. Little Mia, drowning in tears, blamed herself for what was happening, but her childish pleas went unanswered. In desperation, the heroine had to turn to her parents for help. However, instead of support, she faced condemnation and accusations. After spending a day at her parents' house, she felt despair growing with each passing minute. Attempts to contact Ben and Tom were unsuccessful. The world seemed to be collapsing before her eyes. The heroine realized the gravity of her mistakes and the inevitable retribution for them. But watching the family fall apart turned out to be a test beyond her strength. In a fit of despair, she turns to readers with a plea for advice, for any help that can somehow fix the situation and atone for her guilt. The author shares the latest news about her difficult situation with Reddit readers, realizing that she probably shouldn't, but feeling the need to speak out. She continues to use the platform as a personal outlet. First and foremost, she addresses frequently asked questions. Vincent is still unaware of what's happening. In her opinion, Tom hasn't shared the information with him or his wife. Otherwise, Vincent would have contacted her by now. Furthermore, Tom has expressed his desire to divorce. He is renouncing custody of Mia and doesn't intend to pay alimony, believing she's lucky he's not suing over the paternity fraud. He insists on removing his name from the girl's birth certificate and categorically refuses any involvement in her life. This aspect is particularly painful for the author, as Tom was the only father Mia has ever known, despite everything. As far as she knows, Tom hasn't revealed this information to their mutual friends yet. Otherwise, she would have heard something, wouldn't she? The situation feels like a strange state of limbo, where their world is crumbling, but to outsiders, everything remains the same. She fears the moment the truth becomes public knowledge, and she has to answer to friends and everyone around her. In her initial confession, she omitted a crucial detail. After Ben's birth, she dedicated herself entirely to home and family, abandoning her career. This fact further exacerbates her situation, as she now has no job, no financial independence, and her only refuge is her parents' home. Mia, consumed by guilt, constantly apologizes and cries bitterly, convinced that her curiosity and disclosure of the secret caused the calamity that has befallen them. The mother's heart breaks at the sight of her daughter's suffering, but she doesn't know how to alleviate her pain, as she knows deep down that her actions led to these tragic consequences. She has been unsuccessfully trying to contact Ben, but the young man is not answering calls, consumed by resentment and anger, which is understandable. Tom is also silent, not responding to her messages. The woman feels utterly alone and overwhelmed, realizing the magnitude of the consequences of her mistakes. She admits that she committed serious transgressions and is now forced to pay for them. Appealing to the Reddit community, the author shares her state of mind, darkened by deep depression and a sense of universal rejection. The situation is compounded by a conflict with her parents, who, taking an accusatory stance, revealed to Mia the painful truth about Tom's unwillingness to acknowledge her as his child. This move, taken behind the author's back, ruined her attempts to soften the blow and convince Mia otherwise. The news was devastating for Mia, who now blames herself and the author for what happened, believing that if her mother's life hadn't changed, she would still be Tom's daughter. The girl's pain and anger tear at the author's heart, realizing that her child's suffering is a direct consequence of her mistakes. In a desperate attempt to find a way out of the situation, the author turns to Reddit users for advice, emphasizing the impossibility of seeking psychotherapy due to financial difficulties. Tom, having kicked her out of the house, deprived her of her livelihood, emptying their shared accounts. Now she is completely dependent on her parents, who, while providing shelter, do not offer moral support but only exacerbate the situation with constant reproaches. The author is trying to convey to Mia that Tom's actions are dictated by anger and pain, not by her fault, but the girl finds it difficult to accept this explanation. Finding a way out of the vicious cycle of despair and misunderstanding becomes the main task for the author, who desperately needs support and wise advice. Public attention is once again focused on the scandalous story unfolding on Reddit. The protagonist, whose name remains undisclosed, once again turns to the online community to share the latest developments in the drama, where love, betrayal, and public condemnation are intertwined. As it turns out, Tom, a key figure in this convoluted story, did not remain silent and revealed the truth about what happened, which triggered a storm of outrage and condemnation. The protagonist's phone has been ringing off the hook. Particularly painful was the outburst from Vince's wife, who, consumed by anger and resentment, unleashed a torrent of insults and accusations. And while it's understandable to comprehend the fury of the deceived wife, as the protagonist admits she betrayed her trust, The lack of reaction from Vince himself is puzzling and adds intrigue to this complex situation. But the trials didn't end there. Following Vince's wife, the protagonist was also attacked by her friends, demanding explanations and expressing their outrage. Questions, accusations, shock. All this crashed down on the woman with such force that she was forced to turn off her phone to shield herself from the negativity, even for a short time. After all, in the current situation, where everyone supports Tom, any word or action of hers can be met with hostility and turn into a new wave of criticism. Ultimately, the protagonist feels the world around her crumbling, leaving her utterly alone, without support or understanding. Where this path will lead her remains to be seen, but one thing is clear. This story is far from over and will continue to stir the minds of internet users. Attention, Reddit readers. The author is back after several weeks of silence due to a hectic pace of life. She returns to share the latest news and experiences. The main news is that she is actively looking for a job, having finally realized that the bridges with the past are burned. Tom has no intention of forgiving the betrayal, forgetting what happened, or reuniting with her and their daughter, Mia. Accepting this bitter truth was not easy, but now she faces reality. Job hunting has proven to be a challenging task. The lack of significant experience and a long career break, about 15 years, creates serious obstacles. Her parents advised her to start small, taking a low-paying job, which seems reasonable in the current situation. Desperate for a means of survival, she is willing to take any job offered. Despite numerous resumes sent and discouraging responses, she remains hopeful and continues to move forward, striving to rebuild her life for Mia and herself. On a positive note, her brother, Ben, has finally resumed communication. He answers calls and even came to visit her and Mia. Her daughter was overjoyed to see her uncle and did not leave his side during the visit. Ben admitted that he has not fully forgiven her yet, but is beginning to come to terms with what happened. He stated that, while he no longer sees her as a sister, he still considers her part of the family, since she is the only sister he has known her whole life. The disappointment from these words is certainly present, but she has no choice but to accept them, as she was the cause of the discord. After the breakup with Tom, the woman's social circle narrowed as friends sided with her ex-husband, leading to the cessation of communication on her part. Despite acknowledging her mistakes, she decided to distance herself from those who are not ready to forgive her transgressions. Currently, she is trying to rebuild her relationship with Ben, who, despite being busy, finds time to meet. Tom, in turn, does not want to resume the relationship, but does not prevent Ben from communicating with his mother. The only interaction between the woman and Tom is limited to messages about the upcoming divorce proceedings. She acknowledges that she is going through a difficult period and looks to the future with anxiety, trying to live one day at a time. The woman turns to readers for advice, needing support and recommendations on finding a job after a long break, as well as adapting to a new life situation. At the same time, she asks detractors who continue to send hate messages to channel their energy into a more constructive direction. The author shares with Reddit readers the latest news about her divorce proceedings, which, according to her, are now in full swing. She admits that signing the documents was not easy, but she took this step to save Tom from unnecessary problems, taking the blame for what happened on herself. Her heart is broken, and she sincerely wants to fix everything. However, Tom apparently does not share her aspirations. The behavior of their daughter, Mia, adds particular poignancy to the situation. The girl attempted to contact her biological father, Vince, and even reached out to his wife through Facebook. However, these attempts were unsuccessful. Instead of a long-awaited meeting with her father, Mia received only a message from Vince and his wife, in which they expressed their unwillingness to maintain any relationship with her. The author admits that it hurts her to see her daughter rejected, but at the same time, she understands Vince's motives. She learned that Tom fired Vince from his job, which undoubtedly created serious financial difficulties for his family. The author suggests that Vince's wife may not be able to withstand the burden of responsibility and may eventually file for divorce. Talking to Mia was a real test for the author. She saw how her daughter, who only dreamed of one thing: to know her real father, who she thought did not need her, was suffering. Guilt gnaws at the author as she understands that her actions led to this painful situation. Despite life's vicissitudes, the author of this narrative remains hopeful in her job search. Several upcoming interviews instill optimism that she will soon find a suitable position. Unfortunately, the stream of negative comments and messages continues to poison her existence, requiring tremendous effort to ignore them. The author dreams that detractors will leave her alone and stop reminding her of past mistakes. In this regard, updates on the platform will be published less frequently. After finalizing the divorce, I promise to provide a final update before closing the account. I'm grateful to everyone who offered support and advice. This final update marks the end of this chapter of my life, after which the account will be deleted. As promised, I'm delivering the final update before deleting the account. The main news is that I've found a job, albeit with low pay. My plan is to save money, gain experience, and explore freelance opportunities to eventually land a higher paying position. The ultimate goal is to own a home where my daughter and I can live independently. The divorce is finalized, and as expected, it was incredibly painful. I had to forego a lawyer due to financial constraints, and I questioned its necessity anyway. In this state, marital infidelity automatically forfeits the right to custody and alimony. As a result, I received neither. Despite this, the divorce proceeded relatively quickly and without major complications, except that Mia is still legally considered Tom's daughter. The process of removing his name from her birth certificate is underway, which is a lengthy procedure. Tom was granted custody of both Mia and Ben. However, he relinquished custody of Mia, stating immediately after the court formalities that she is not his daughter and he intends to remove his name from her birth certificate. Despite the court's decision to grant the father custody of both children, Mia remained with me, while Ben settled into his father's home. Ben visits regularly on weekends, and they have a warm relationship. Nevertheless, I believe he may never fully forget the past events. The court ordered me to pay child support. However, given the significant income disparity between Tom and me and my modest earnings, the payment amount was set at the minimum. Tom stated that he did not need the funds, thereby relieving me of the financial burden. I am relieved that the divorce process is over. Tom only communicates with me regarding Ben. He refuses to communicate with Mia, despite her attempts to connect and apologize. He claims he doesn't blame her for what happened, but doesn't want a relationship with her. I admit that I went through a difficult period, facing hatred and negativity. Therefore, I plan to delete my account and temporarily abstain from using Reddit. I hope that in the future, when my financial situation improves, I can seek professional help for myself and Mia. In conclusion, I thank you for your attention and bid you farewell.